Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, and you're watching a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Joining me, as always, is my co-host from the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, Rebellious D. D, how are you doing today?
I'm doing splendid, my friend. How are you?
Hey, I am doing fantastic. You know, D, usually I always say I'm always tired, but actually, after I got off of work today, I came home, I took a little nap, and what's interesting is I did not set my alarm clock, and I still was able to wake up in time because we have a very special guest joining us today. You have heard her in so many 90s anime cartoons, and that is Mrs. Susan Roman. Susan, how are you doing today?
I am doing terrific. Thank you so much. Boy, it's so great. Listen, you can just call me Susan Alarm Clock, right? I mean, that's great. You just got up from your nap knowing that I would be here waiting to say, Benjamin, where are you? Everything's about to start and you're snoozing.
I know. And it would have been weird because when I woke up, I was telling myself, I was just like, I could only imagine like getting emails from you and my phone blowing up like from D saying, where are you at? Where are you at? We have an interview. But yes, also just wanted to let everybody know, Trav, he's not joining us today. You know, D, he had to go out into space to help save the world. He's gone back in time to help save the world. And Trav, you know, he's saving the world right now himself. He is on the other side of the world right now, and he is on a super secret mission, which I can't say, but hopefully he'll survive and we'll see him back here soon, so that way we can keep on doing this podcast. So before we get into today's interview, everybody that's watching, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you hit that bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And D, like you say every time,
as always, podcast episodes found in the description. Like, follow, subscribe to the channel, and thank everyone for listening.
And if Trav was here, he has his quote of the day, and I'll do it today. My quote of the day will be, make sure that you set your alarm clock because you never know when you might not wake up. So yeah, always set that alarm. So yeah. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this interview. So Susan, one of the first questions that I always ask all of our guests up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks is, what is your origin story? Every hero or villain has one. So tell everybody who you are.
My origin story, you mean as me? Just as little old me from Canada?
Yes.
I was born in an igloo. No, I was not born.
I love this. I love where it was going.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it's funny. I've never been in an igloo myself. I must find one one of these days and see if I can get something happening. So I think one of the most important things that you'll find when you speak with anybody who does voiceover work, especially if you do voiceover work for animation, I think a lot of the time you're going to find out that they have a theatrical background, and that is the case with me. So all my life I wanted to be an actress, all my life. And I went to theater school when I got out of high school, and it was wonderful. I loved going to theater school. And when I got out of theater school, I started doing film and television, mostly. A little bit of theater, but then I started getting into film and television. And at one point, I had my own television series here in Canada on CBC, which is our national network. So it was all very on-camera oriented. And after a while, I started, I don't know, I wasn't as enamored of it as I was at the beginning, you know, when reality sets in. And I was working, that's for sure. But it just wasn't as enjoyable anymore. And then one day my agent said, would you like to, I had done voiced a few radio commercials. And she said, would you like to audition for some animation? And I said, yeah, sure. That sounds great. And so I remember my first audition for an animated project. It felt it felt like being at theater school again. It had that same energy, that same creative impulse. It wasn't just, the dialogue was imaginative, whereas some of the work I had been doing, it was just, I was a friend to the friend of the friend of the assistant DA. And, you had lines like, can I get you anything from the fridge, Madge? And you, okay, great. I go to theater school for 8 million years, and that's what anyway. So it was creative, and it was full of, I'm going to use the word creative again, as it's not very creative of me. It was full of, you had to use your imagination, and you had to, use all those muscles that you learned about, and all that technique that you learned about at theater school. So I said, ooh, this is great. This is for me. And in those days, back then, all of the animation, all of it was original animation. There was no dubbing. Nobody dubbed anything. So when you got a character, you got a line drawing of the character. If they cast you in the role, even if they didn't cast you, when you went to your audition, you saw a line drawing. And so that was your baby. And that's one of the things we used to do, is put the line drawing on our music stands right beside our scripts. So we always had, because otherwise there's no reference point. It was a drawing somebody had drawn. And so the line drawing would be there, and sometimes he would just sort of glance over at the line drawing and notice, oh, wow, I just noticed that she's got a little bit of an underbite or a little bit of an overbite. And all of a sudden that would affect how you read your lines, right? So if you see that somebody's got a little bit of an overbite or an underbite, it's going to affect the way you talk, So it was wonderful, because you were part of the collaboration. You were part of the creation of that character. So when anime first came to North America, this was the first time, I believe it was my very, very first time ever dubbing. I think I had dubbed some commercials, I think, one or two. And I said to myself, geez, this is hard. Matching the lip sync for a real person, it's hard. But then Sailor Moon came along, and then I found out what hard really was, because not only are you trying to create a character, but you have to do it to the set speed limit that's already been established. So if I wanted to read the line, whatever the line was, let's say it was, but do you really like me? So if I wanted to read it like that, but do you really like me? But the voice is going like this, but do you really like me? Do you hear that? I can't read it the way I want to read it, because I have to go according to the speed limit that's been established by the performer who did it in the original language. So it's hard, and don't let anyone ever tell you that, oh, it's only dubbing. So many voice actors, we talk about it sometimes, and we say that is, of all the skills for in the world of voiceover, of all the skills out there, dubbing is by far the hardest. Go figure, huh? So if somebody can do a really good job dubbing an entire series, and believably, so that people really like the character and relate to the character, my hat's off to them. I say, well done you, because in a lot of ways it's so much easier to just do the character, perform the character from scratch. Well, so much for that little short answer.
No, we
on and on I go.
Yeah, we love hearing origin stories like that, because you give us so much that we can piggyback off of, and ask you questions about. Now, one of the first things I wanted to piggyback off of was, I have actually been inside of an igloo. There was a job that I used to work at, and it had snowed here in Virginia, and we were driving around the neighborhood, and there was an actual big igloo that somebody had made out of snow, and I had took pictures with it. I went inside of it, because that's one of those things that you'll never see, or you think that you'll never see unless you go somewhere. And I guess this family, they made the igloo, and I told my boss, I was just like, hey, we got to stop. I want to go inside the igloo. And it was really cool. So I do hope that I hope that you can, the next time it snows, if you can get some friends or family and then build an igloo so that way you can go inside of it, I think that you should do it because it'll be a fun activity to do.
Listen, I am impressed that you actually saw, first of all, in Virginia of all places.
I know.
Like, how do anyone know how to do that in Virginia? So that's pretty impressive. Apparently they're as warm as toast because the walls are so nice and thick and everything. So, the really authentic ones, I think, have fires in the middle. Right.
Yes,
and then there's a hole to let all the smoke. But you know what? Talking of winter is is very depressing because here we are in beautiful July. It reminds me of what one of my favorite lyrics is, like a summer with 1,000 Julys. And I think meaning it's terrific. So that's So if you're Canadian and we talk about winter and we know we've got like 19 months of it ahead of us, it kind of, your heart sort of sinks. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I know. Go ahead, D.
No, just one thing I wanted to touch on with igloos in Virginia is that there's a lot of military here. And you never know where someone's stationed.
That's true.
What they pick up.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
But yeah, July's a lot better than winter.
I don't know. Like, see, because I was born in January, so I have always loved the winter time because I say this all the time. Whenever my birthday comes around, my birthday is January 26th. It always snows around my birthday, and like, so I just love the snow. And I'm 33 years old, and when it snows, I'll still go outside and I'll build a snowman because you'll always be a child at heart. And I just feel like doing stuff like that, it keeps you humble, it keeps you down to earth, and it's always fun. It's because it's like you're getting creative when you build a snowman. I might not be able to make the best snowman, but I'll make a giant snowman and let it stay out in my yard until the sun comes back out and it melts it. But something else I wanted to piggyback off of was when you had mentioned your theater background, and that's something that we hear from a lot of voice actors is that that they were in theater, they took it in high school, and they continued doing it in college, and some voice actors that we've interviewed, like, they've always wanted to be voice actors. But then sometimes we have voice actors, kind of like how you were just saying, where it's, it comes later on in life. Like some of them went to college and they were just like, I want to take a break from theater. I want to, get from behind the camera and whatnot. And, voiceover work is an option to, get into. And, like I had mentioned at the start of this interview, you've done so many incredible things, and now Sailor Moon is one of my favorites, so I want to wait to talk about that because I grew up watching Sailor Moon and I loved it, and I just can't wait till we start talking about that. But when you had mentioned doing dubbing and then doing anime dubbing, and it's just like just having to match what the original dubbing, not the original dubbing, but the original voice actors had did, and how it's a tough thing to do. I just think that that's very interesting. And like, how many times did you have to like redo a scene so that way that like you could match up like the lips and everything when it came to doing those dubbing scenes?
Well, that's, you wouldn't have kept the gig if you hadn't been able to do it quickly. That was part of it, because it was, they just needed to get those episodes out and done and ready to air. So, I knew, and they would know right away, actually, but during the audition, when we had to actually, there's a technique or a system that they use, was called a rhythmo band. And it's very much like karaoke. It's just like, follow the bouncing ball. So there was a screen and your lines were up there somewhere, but so were everybody else's lines, right, on this screen. So you had to figure out what color am I? And so I would be green. So the first time that I did it, I looked up at all the bouncing, and they weren't bouncing, but all the balls, all the lines are going by at warp speed. And when the lines get to the left-hand side of the screen where there's a big black bar, and as soon as they hit that big black bar, you have to start talking. But all the lines are hitting the bar. So you have to just focus in on your line of dialogue because they're all stacked up, like planes at LaGuardia, all these lines. And I remember looking up, and I remember saying to myself, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is impossible. And I said, excuse me, stop. Because I didn't realize that my lines were color coded when I first did it. And I said, I can't find my lines anymore because they also kept changing their levels. Like 1 minute they'd be the second line in and then they'd be the 8th line in. So then the person said, just anytime you see anything green, speak. So I said, oh, okay, fine. So then I tried it again and I had it in my mind. I said, come on, you can do it. And the other part of my mind's going, I can't do this. And I said, nobody can do this. This is too hard. But then I kind of relaxed and I stopped being so hard on myself. And all of a sudden, I found I had a break. Like she did in the audition, she didn't speak for a little while. So I was able to just kind of coast for a bit. And I saw how it worked. And I said, oh, I get it. And then finally I did get it. And then I was able to actually concentrate on the character, about which I had no clue because like we didn't have a whole lot of info. I think they said feisty. Sailor Jupiter was feisty. But I mean, I think I auditioned for practically every character there was. And of course, we all wanted to play Sailor Moon. I mean, well, who wouldn't? She has the most lines, and actors are very greedy. So, how many lines do I have? Oh, well, that's good. So anyway, when I was doing the audition, I remember saying to myself, of all of these characters, I said, really, you're not that suited to Sailor Moon. I mean, let's be realistic here. And then I said to myself, the character I like the best is Sailor Jupiter. And that's good. Oh, that was the one with the green lines. Oh yeah, I really liked her. So when my agent called and said they would like to book you for Sailor Moon, and I said, which one? Am I Sailor Moon? And she said, no, you're not. But you're Sailor Jupiter. And I said, oh, that is so great. Absolute. That was really, really pleasing to me. Because and so the thing was, so when you're saying do we ever have to do retakes if the dubbing got messed up? We're only human, so every once in a while you would mess up, but you couldn't mess up too many times, otherwise there was somebody waiting in the wings to take over your spot. Wow. I mean, I think we were always aware of that, but the thing is that the more you did it, the better you got at it, and then after a while it became like second nature to just go up and go into the studio and look up at the rhythmo band. And don't forget, you're doing, the rhythmo band is on, but also it's on the screen, but also the action is on the screen. So you're looking back and forth between the rhythmo band, looking at your lines that are coming up and getting ready to say them. And then you're also trying to see the expression on your character's face, so that you wouldn't do something like, oh, ha 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 ha, oh, I killed him, and then you see that she's actually crying, and so now you realize you've read it incorrectly. I mean, it doesn't match her face at all. So then you have to go back and do that again. So it was, it was challenging. Yeah, just to put it. It was funny, I'm just going to digress for a moment. I just said the word, the famous bugaboo Canadian word, O-U-T, out, in a boot. Pardon me. So, but I didn't say it that way. I hope I said it more openly. When I did a lot of animation work that was about 50, a lot of times the project was produced by an American company. And so when we had finished recording, all our, I was going to say MP3s, they weren't that then. The reels were sent down to LA or New York or wherever it was, usually LA, and they would listen. And the one thing they were looking for, because they knew that the cast was all Canadian, were the out sounds, O-U-T, about, out. Also the way we say things like dollar instead of dollar or whatever. So you could have done the best speech on the planet, you know, it was just absolutely mesmerizing, jaw-dropping speech. And if they heard that you say out, they would send it back and they'd say, this has to be redone. The OU sound isn't correct. So this became a real challenge for some people because okay, Benjamin, say the line, I went out last night. Just let me hear you say it.
I went out last night.
Oh my God. See, that out is beautiful. That is a thing.
Thank you.
It's just beautiful. All right. So now I'm going to say it the way I would say it if I weren't doing an animated project. I went out last night. Can you hear this? It's not I went out.
Yeah, I can
hear the difference.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah. So apparently it's very pick upable by American audiences, that as soon as they hear that OU sound, they know something's not quite the way they're used to it, right? So what we would do is we would write on a card or a piece of paper in big block letters, instead of O-U-T, well, I did this and I encouraged everybody to do it, and a lot of people did, is that instead of writing O-U-T, you write A-W-T. So anytime you see O-U-T, you read it as ought.
Yeah.
But what happens is it comes out better in the line. So then I was going out, and so it's not, even when we were doing it, we're going, is that right? That sounds awfully it sounds like we're drunk or something. So so anyway, there's a fun little story. Some of our best work ended up on the cutting room floor because of really bad OU sounds. It's just, I think it's so interesting. And I don't know that I don't even think it happens nowadays, but then it was a really, really big thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, D.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Susan. Next question. You had the honor and privilege to be in a part of a couple of different shows that we grew up with, and one that was always so fun and I cared a lot about was Care Bears. You were actually you got to voice one of my favorite bears. Good Luck Bear.
Oh, actually, no, I was. Okay, so in the original series back in the 80s, I was Champ Bear.
Yeah, I know, Champ Bear first.
And then and then in the reboot, about 10 or 15 years later, or whenever it was, I think I was Good Luck Bear in the reboot, but I'm not.
Yeah, you were. Not. I know Good Luck Bear when I see it.
But you know, I mean, I did a lot more work as Champ Bear because I mean it was an entire series, right? And as opposed to just one of those specials.
Yep.
And that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was my first time doing a male character. And I'm pretty sure. And I remember a director said to me, and don't forget, this is all like at the beginning stages. Like nobody knew really what animation was, kind of. It was just all like this other discipline that was out there. And people, you know, would say things like, I'm thinking of getting into animation. What do you think? Like it was all, it wasn't publicized. And in those days, nobody knew who the voice was behind the person, behind the character. So there's no internet. There's no way you could ever find out who voiced any of these characters. You knew, Mel Blanc, and that was the end of it. That way you just didn't know anybody else. They were all anonymous. And there was this kind of feeling like that, animation voice actors just wanted to be anonymous, and that's why they chose that career, because they never had to go out and be in front of people. They could be private, they could be quiet, and keep to themselves. And there wasn't all the raza, the show business stuff going on. So anyway, so this director said to me, I think I was in, it was a strawberry shortcake episode of something or other. And he said, you've got some natural texture in your voice. Have you ever thought of, working on little boy characters? I said, no, I never thought of that. He said, try it, because I think you could do well at it. And so I went home and I started, practicing just in my room. And I thought, I don't know. And then I saw him again about 2 or 3 months later, because I had another role on Strawberry Shortcake, another little girl. And he said, have you been working? He said, you could really do a good little boy's voice. And he said the immortal words to me, which I have never forgotten. And bless him, I wish I could give him a shout out right now, but I can't. I don't even know that I did know his name at the time. But he said it's not so much the vocal quality of a boy child, it's the attitude of the boy child as opposed to the attitude of the girl child, and the energy and where the energy is placed. And he said, think of a little boy as a little more punchy. When you talk like a little boy, there's a little more punch, a little more forward, and without the water on the lips. So little girl is the energy's a little bit more held in. It's more on an inhale. So yeah, right. So it's more my energy is more in the back of my mouth, whereas a little boy, the energy is more at the front of my mouth. Right? Can you hear the difference?
Yeah, I can totally hear the difference. Yeah.
So this director said this to me, and it was like light bulbs went off in my head, and I just did it a little bit for him. And he said, yes, that's it. You get it. You got it. And it was just a little while later that I auditioned for Care Bears, and I actually asked if I could read for Champ Bear. I asked specifically, otherwise, because they wouldn't, because I had only been doing little girls at that, or voicing little girls. And so I got the part. So that it was just wonderful. I loved it. So much more freedom, right?
Yep.
Being a little boy, being a little bear.
A little bear, that's right. Now, Miss Susan, question: do you have a shirt floating around somewhere at your residence, up in a case with a gold cup on it anyway?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
you're right. That's what he had, the little gold cup.
Yeah, the little gold cup
on his
tummy. It takes me
tummy.
back. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to ask one piggyback question. Now, when it came to switching over for, I guess, the special where you were Good Luck Bear.
Yeah.
Do you know why they switched you from Champ Bear? Because Champ Bear was a staple bear too. It wasn't like he was a new one. Was it just?
They all got switched around. It was amazing, and there were also a lot of new voices added to the mix, and I think there were some new bears added to the mix. I'm
correct.
Not sure.
I'm pretty sure there were.
I'm not sure.
Like
but I
every.
Things things move on, they evolve, it's things change, and that's just it's just part of the flow. But I think it was I think Linda Ballantyne played Champ in the newer dub. I'm pretty sure she did, but so I was okay with that.
It was in good hands, huh?
Yeah, keep it in the family.
Right, that's right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so something that I wanted to bring up next is because, here on the channel and on the podcast, we're huge Marvel fans. And you had the honor of being in one of my favorite cartoons growing up, which was X-Men, the animated series. And all I can say is thank you, because like I said, it was one of my favorite series growing up, next to Sailor Moon as well. And recently, it was announced that they're doing X-Men 97, which is a continuation of the X-Men animated series. Now, have they contacted you to come back and voice any of the characters that you voiced on the original series? If you can say.
Well, so here's the thing. There's no way that you would know this, Benjamin. I have been incorrectly allocated as a couple of voices on X-Men that I did not voice, and I've actually I wrote to a couple of places, well, way back when I first read it. And I said, I think one of them they've allocated as Scarlet Witch or something like that. And it's just not me. If you listen to the little blurb on one of the websites that I was listening to, they had a couple of little blurbs under the character. And I said, I don't remember doing that. That's weird. So I listened to the voice and I said, ooh, that's totally not me. So I wrote to whoever had that website, and because they got it, I think from maybe IMDb, maybe I don't know where. And I said, you've incorrectly. So some actress out there actually did voice this part, and you've said that I did, and I think you should, get the right name. Would be terrific. And they wrote back and said, oh yeah, we'll fix it, but they never did. So it's I'm sure I did one or two characters for X-Men, but they were not big recurring roles. No, it's funny. I did, because at the same time that X-Men was being recorded here in Toronto, there was another series called The Avengers was being recorded. And I did do some really nice characters on that. But one of them is allocated to me, but then the other one isn't. So here's the thing. I finally decided that I wanted to put together a compilation of all of my animation work through the years. And even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to find half of it. But now everything is online. It's amazing. And some really, it's really, really good quality, a lot of the stuff that's online. And so I worked with a really wonderful new friend of mine. I met him actually on a podcast about 5 years ago, Ezra Moreno, and he started looking. He said, I'm just going to look. I'm just going to find stuff that you've done. And I went back through all my daytimers. And because when I was saying about doing guest roles, like that was very, very common. You'd have your own series that you were involved in, that you as a recurring character, but then you would also get booked to do a character here and a character there and here, there, and everywhere. And you'd go in and you would do the role. It could be 8 lines, it could be 55 lines, whatever. And then you'd leave and you would totally forget about it because it was just like a one-off. And so I went back through my daytimer through the last 25, 30 years. And it would just say the name of a studio and the name of an animated project, a cartoon that was being recorded. And he would look online and he would find these things that I would go, oh my God, that's actually very good. Oh, that was a good day for me. So we started, putting together this compilation of all the stuff. And I was absolutely thrilled. And I'm going to be releasing it very soon to the public.
Nice.
But I couldn't find anything from X-Men. Isn't that funny? So to answer your question, no, there's nothing for them to, I know everybody who was in X-Men is wondering, oh, am I going to get, called back for the reboot or it's not a reboot. I think it's just like a whole brand new series that they're doing, but I'm not sure. And I mean, that was so terrific. There's such a fan base for that. It was so well done. Yeah, that was like one of the one. I don't even think I auditioned for that. I always sort of read for characters that were more that were younger, first of all, and that was kind of a little more. I'm pretty sure I didn't even audition. When I say read for it, meaning I didn't audition for it. And if I did, I was probably really disappointed because that was one that everybody wanted to be a part of, for sure. Oh my God, X-Men. Hello. So yeah, well, you can't win them all. Sometimes you have to go home and say to yourself, well, just have to wait for the next one to come along, right? This is right. being an actor, a voiceover actor, whatever kind of actor you are, you have to just keep the faith and say, well, there's next time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually an old saying, Miss Susan, and that's that you can't dance to every record being played. Sometimes you gotta sit down. Everything can't be your song. So,
yeah, and I can totally relate to that because before the pandemic, because I'm a professional wrestler, and
wow,
that's right.
Yeah, and before the pandemic, it was a lot easier getting bookings at places, but at the same time, you always didn't get booked somewhere. And I feel like now it's a little bit harder because a lot of places, like, they ended up closing their doors because of the pandemic and whatnot. But I just know that I would always reach out to people, and either they would get back to you or they would just leave you on red. And it's just like, you can't feel bad if they don't want to use you. It's just like, oh, well, I'll just try the next place, and hopefully they'll use me. And I just feel like it's a way of just staying humble and not getting better or having an ego. And sometimes too, I mean, you go and you have a match, and the match might not be that good, but then it's like the next time you'd be like, okay, I know what I need to work on, and I'll knock it out of the park the next time. So it's I can see the similarities between wrestling and voice acting when it comes to getting gigs and all of that type of stuff. And I just wanted to ask you now, because as somebody that's been doing voiceover work, from the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, and I wanted to know, like, how different was it, seeing the voiceover game change over time?
Well, I miss the days of original animation. I really miss those days because, first of all, very often we'd record together, all of us in the same studio, kind of like a radio play, so it was then again, it's like, it's like going back to theater school. You're performing with your fellow actors. And one of the things, of course, that you always had to remember was that you had to leave a pause between lines so that they could cut the dialogue in and it would be clean, so that you wouldn't bleed over into somebody else's microphone, or somebody bleed over into your microphone if they spoke too soon when their mic wasn't live and yours still was. Little kind of kooky things like that nowadays nobody would ever think of. So that was really, it was neat. And you'd go in, and every week you'd record an entire episode, all of you together in the same room. And so you built up this camaraderie with everybody. Now, I understand that you worked with, or you had an interview with Robert Boxall a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of my absolute favorite actors on the planet. And he was in one of the animated, that's how we met actually, as one of the animated series that was done ensemble way back in the day. He was terrific. I remember the director, he was from LA, this really kooky director. And he would say, "Okay, Boxall, what have you got for us now?" You'd never call them Robert or Bob or Robbie or anything. So anytime I always want to say, "How are you doing, Boxall?"
Michael.
I know. And a quick thing, if you would like to check out Robert's episode, it is on our YouTube or our podcast. So go and check those out.
Oh,
but you can continue, Miss Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we always got to plug the episodes.
Yeah, we gotta spread the word.
Spread the word. I will. Oh, listen, he's just terrific, and such a really talented actor. Oh my God. And then after that, and I had forgotten this, I also directed a few animated series, and I directed him in an animated series called Animal Shelf. Nice. And he reminded me of that, and I said, oh my goodness. Wow. when you're in a relatively, I mean, Toronto's a really, really big city, but, and there are a lot of actors, well, a lot more now than there were then, but then it was kind of like a smaller stable of folks. And I'm saying stable because I'm just thinking back to the old Hollywood days, you know, when everybody would work for one studio, they became part of that studio's stable of actors. And so that's kind of how it was in Toronto back in the early days. So it was you got to know your fellow actors a lot more because you were working with them all the time. But then as time goes by, it you know, and you start doing there's more dubbing involved. That usually, well, anytime I've ever dubbed, I've always done it by myself. I've been in the studio by myself because it's just a lot easier technically to get it all happening. It goes much more quickly, but then there's no continuity. I mean, I might go in and dub 3 lines from episode 8 and then 9 lines from episode 14. You see what I'm saying? So it's not quite as, it doesn't have that through line that it would if you were doing, as I said, an ensemble piece where you're all there from beginning to the end and you do the whole thing in sequence. And sometimes, like, this was the best part. Some people are just so funny, and there you are recording, and they're doing their character things and whatever, and all you want to do is laugh. And of course, you can't laugh because you can't do that. How unprofessional. So, you know, you'll ruin the person's take. I mean, that's a real no-no. Oh my God. So sometimes some people are just so funny, and you think, I'm not gonna laugh. And you just say, you're looking up at the ceiling, just get me out of this. That wasn't funny. I'm not gonna. And then inside, you know, like when you're holding it in and your whole body's quivering. Anyway, it was just, it was so much fun. So I missed that part of it. And as I said, there's a lot more dubbing now, which is good because that means there's a lot more work for people.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can't knock that.
Nope.
And I actually have worked on projects that were dubbed from English to English. Those are the best. You ever what do you mean it's from English to English? And the ones that I'm talking about were 2 shows that came in from England. So they didn't want the British accents in there because it was for a Canadian audience.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, if you ever have to do, get involved in a dubbed project, it's really a lot easier if you're just going from the same language to the same language. That's pretty, that's like a holiday. Oh, yay. Yeah. That's not going to be that hard. So,
definitely makes for an easier day at the office, I'm sure.
An easier day at the office can sometimes be fun, can be a good thing.
Yeah. We all need them, right?
Yeah.
Every day can be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, something I wanted to piggyback off of is what you had said, where like there's more dubbing out there. You know, a lot of the actors that we interview now, they talk about like how easy it is to, get into voice acting and, put your stuff out there and somebody can reach out to you and contact you. When we had interviewed Linda Young, whose interview that you can listen to or watch on our YouTube channel, she was telling us, telling us back in the day that when you found out about like an acting gig for voiceover work, like it would be in the newspaper and it's just like, hey, we want this person, come in and audition for this role. I want to ask you, like, just seeing the whole audition process like change over the years, like was it the same way in Canada as well, where it's just like you would see in the newspaper, we need somebody to voice this character in this role?
No, not at all. So there are 2 distinct avenues that everything goes down, and there's union work and then there's non-union work. And non-union work is going to be much more open and much more available. In the day, I would say 99.9% of the animation that was done in Canada was union. And so you had to be a member of the union to work on the project. And the only way you could get an audition for the project was through an agent. and your agent would submit you to the producer and say, they would send out a major casting sheet and say, we're looking for these characters. And so your agent and all the agents in the city would submit actors, union actors, to go in and audition. And they would say yes or no, we'd like to see those people. So there was a whole bunch of layers that went on that you didn't even know about until you got the call from the agent who'd say, you have an audition tomorrow at noon at such and such a studio. And it's for this part. Go early and pick up sides, because there was no internet. You couldn't download anything. You didn't know what was up. So you would go early, you'd read, there would be 3 or 4 pages for you to read. Those are called sides. And you would read the sides and you'd go in and you'd audition. And then if you were smart, you'd walk out of there and promptly forget about it. That's the only way you can keep your sanity as an actor, is when you finished your audition, you say to yourself, did you do the best you could do? Yes, I did the very best. Okay, now just put it behind you. It's done. It's over. Forget it. And that's it. You go home and you forget it. And then if the phone rings and your agent says, guess what? You got the part. You go, oh, that's great. What part? Oh, did I audition for? Oh, because you put it out of your mind so thoroughly. This is to avoid crushing disappointment at every turn. So then more projects started, animated projects started being done in non-union houses. And when that happens, it's open to everybody. It's not such a closed shop, except union performers are not allowed to work on non-union productions. So that's where it starts to get a little, it becomes a little confusing and a little, and disappointing, because you look at a project and you think, oh, that looks great. Oh, I can't do that one. Okay. So there's a whole other world out there, and I don't really know all that much about it. And the idea of seeing something in the newspaper is totally new to me. I have never heard of that, but and don't forget too, you're talking about an American experience, and I'm talking about a Canadian experience, and they are so different. It's astonishing. I mean, our country is what, like 1/10 the size of the U.S., something like that. It's a relatively small country, and things are done here, I think, differently in some instances, and it's all totally the same in other instances. So anyway, just to end off with that, both sides of the coin produce really great product and projects, and now they have become so similar to one another that they're barely distinguishable, right? So it's and as I said, it has opened up enormously. So people I like the idea that when things open up, because it gives more people a shot. I like that idea. For sure. That's because before someone would say, well, I don't even know how to get in. I don't even know where to start or what to do, or it could be a little overwhelming. And for me, it was just I more or less fell into it. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really have to. I was in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it, being in the right place at the right time.
Oh, you got it.
Oh, yes.
You got it.
Now, Miss Susan, I do want to talk about another title. It's actually, I believe, a couple of video games that you actually had the privilege of being a part of, and that was Mega Man Legends 1 and 2. Is that true? Is that right?
I like how you asked.
Behind door number 1. or as the old TV show used to say, show me America's number 1 answer. Or in this case, I guess Canada's number 1 answer.
I'm pretty sure I was in Mega Man Legends 2, but I don't think I was in 1. I'm pretty sure. So I don't think I was in
part of it. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But I again, and you want to talk about a fast turnover. I didn't even remember that. I was at a Comic-Con, I guess about 5 years ago, and somebody said, "Oh, you were Mega Man, weren't you? Mega Man Legends 2?" And I said, okay, I don't know. I don't remember. Seriously, that recording, that session was so fast. And like, it was, I said, a what game? A video game. Oh yeah. What's that? I mean, it was so new. It was just so not understood. It was just like,
for sure.
And so I went in, and I remember it was summer, and I went to the studio, and they gave me this pile of this script that was like 59,000 pages long. And all it was the same lines, kind of, right? So you know, because you're recording all the alternate lines. And I said, this is weird. Why do okay. So I didn't even know what the heck was going on.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah, that's something we hear a lot when it comes to doing voiceover work in video games. It's like you have to scream 100 times. So I understand
They want the different sounds, the different levels of it, I guess.
Yeah.
The range, I guess, is what they're looking for.
And it's just that depending on which prompt the person goes with, there's got to be like 6 or 7 alternatives. So we were recording all the alternatives for all the prompts. And I thought, I honestly don't get this. Okay, but I'll just, so it was really, really, and they didn't kind of explain stuff to me very well. But, you know, anyway, I think the whole thing took maybe an hour and a half. And then, yeah, as you said, then we have it wasn't too much screaming on this particular video game, so it was okay. But I walked out of there and I said, that is by far the strangest thing I have ever worked on, but oh well. And then I completely forgot about it, and only realized that, or remembered that I had done it at a Comic-Con when someone pointed it out to me. And I said, and they sort of said, I said, was it like, okay? And he said, meh. I went, oh.
Oh my God. It's just like,
oh man.
It's like, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, certain titles, they just age, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the longevity isn't going to be there depending on what you use and things, you know? It's just technology upgrades constantly.
Oh, rebellious, you're so sweet.
Yeah, thank you.
And then again, to piggyback off of what Dee was saying, Miss Susan, you gotta think that was a PS1 video game.
Correct.
And I remember back then, PS1 like a lot of PS1 games, they didn't have voiceover work on them, you know, so Correct. It was always rare when you did get a video game where you did have voiceover on it. And when you did have the voiceovers up there, it was just short dialogue, nothing too long, because they could only fit so much memory on the disc. So it's just, yeah, times.
I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, so it was groundbreaking in a way.
Yes, yeah, because when the PS2 hit came out, I remember like that was the big thing, that like so many video games had voiceovers in them, because back on the PlayStation, you were just reading a bunch of text bubbles and text box with so much dialogue.
Wow.
Yeah. So people just need to be grateful for what they were able to get back.
It's the process.
It's a process.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I never knew that. Isn't that something? Thank you. Thank you for that.
Susan, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Now, you know, like I had said earlier in this interview, I wanted to talk about some Sailor Moon stuff, because, you know, Sailor Moon, again, is one of my favorite series. And I wanted to know, because over here in America, when we had got Sailor Moon, I want to say it was like the early 90s, and we didn't get all of the episodes because it wasn't as popular at the time until it started airing on Toonami. And that's when we got the full series. Now, in Canada, was the series popular that they just kept on going over in Canada, or like did it stop and then it started again? Because the same thing can be said about like Dragon Ball Z. Like here in America, Dragon Ball Z stopped, but then once it started coming on Toonami and it became popular, they redubbed and continued the series. And like now Dragon Ball Z was one of the animes that kind of put anime on the map. You know, Sailor Moon is too, but if it wasn't for Dragon Ball Z, then we wouldn't have gotten to see this surgence in anime and to see how far it's come now. But yeah, back to the question that I was asking, was it like that in Canada for Sailor Moon? Did it continue or did it stop?
I think, first of all, it played on some cable channel here. And I think that they just sort of kept replaying the first season over and over. I'm not really sure how all of this happened because nobody ever told us where it was airing. I never knew that it was even on TV. I had no idea. This is also you have to think back to when there was no internet. There's no way to get information about anything. And so most of us would we would work on series and then somehow somebody somewhere would mention that they'd seen it on TV. There was certainly no streaming services whatsoever. So it would have to be on either network television or cable TV. And so if you were in the market of watching, for example, Saturday morning cartoons, or if you didn't really watch children's shows on cable TV or cable TV children's networks, then you had no clue. So I don't think any of us did have any clue. But I know from watching, going to so many Comic-Cons in the US, is I was told over and over again that the kids would get up. It was on at the crack of dawn. Whatever. I don't know if it was Tsunami or something before that. And they would, these stories of, there I was 7 years old and I would sneak out of bed so nobody would hear me. And they'd go and pour cereal into a bowl and sit and watch Sailor Moon at the crack of dawn. The rest of the house is all asleep. But I mean, that's how dedicated they were. And then we had the change of production of, who was actually in charge of everything. There was Deke, and then the company that came afterwards, and I totally forgotten because it didn't matter because we didn't really deal with them ourselves. And then we just kept going in and recording stuff over quite a long period of time. So we would be on a hiatus from it for 6-7 months, and I would sometimes phone up my agent and say, "Are we still doing any episodes of Sailor Moon?" I think there were a lot of episodes. And finally, he said to me, "No, they're not doing Sailor Moon anymore." So they had just stopped. So that's why we didn't get that last season in.
Yeah.
And apparently it was because it was really difficult to do the translation and the rewrites on it, because there was quite a bit that had to be omitted, and they were basically left with not too much show by the time they had. There's always been this controversy that people say, they edited it so thoroughly that they took the guts out of it, and that's absolutely true. However, it would never have been allowed on network or cable television in its original form. It just wasn't allowed. It was just, there were too many children's regulatory things that were not allowed. Just to give you an example, you had to lose the footage on a regular animated series if you showed, for example, a kid riding a bicycle without a helmet. If they would see that, they'd send it back to you and they'd say, "You're going to have to remove this scene." And you would say, "But we've recorded it. It's all done. It's mixed and everything." And they'd say, "Sorry, it can't go on the air the way it is." So you imagine if they're not going to let you put a scene on the air on children's television, don't forget network and cable TV. If they're not going to let you show a kid riding a bike without a helmet, how on earth do you think they're going to allow some of the scenes that are in the original Sailor Moon? There's no way. There's just no way it wouldn't have been allowed. So then it would have just been, okay, they'd say, no, we're just not airing it, period. You cannot put that on the air. And there would have been no other venue for it. There's just no other place to air it. So they had to do a lot of work on it. And of course they did remove a lot of stuff that makes it what it is. And so now I understand completely why people, want to see the full, total, unexpurgated, unexed out version of it as it came in from Japan. But now, but it still had to be translated. But it's translated maybe a little bit more authentically to the way that it was originally written. So that's just something that I think a lot of times people don't understand. You don't understand the limitations that were in place at the time. They were pretty strict. Pretty strict.
Because I know, like for Dragon Ball Z, for example, that was another one that came on super early in the morning. Like you had to wake up like 5-6 o'clock in the morning, and for us it's like we had to be at the school bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I feel like the only time that you could even watch Sailor Moon is if you were staying home from school because you were sick or it was a holiday or something, and you could watch it on TV. But it was thankful to Toonami putting it up there and making it popular again, and just showing it to so many kids so that way that they could enjoy it. But I mean, like how you were saying about the kid without the helmet on, I know certain anime like Dragon Ball Z again, they had to turn beer into soda, or like they had to remove certain things. And it's cool now that we live in an age where you can release the original product, because I mean, even going back to when we were younger, so many VHS tapes, and you would have like Dragon Ball Z edited, Dragon Ball Z unedited, Dragon Ball Z uncut. Like there were so many versions of the same thing, because in Japan this is what it was originally aired as. And when you're bringing something to a Western audience, even with video games, for example, you have to change the dialogue, you have to change what's being said, because you want to make it kid friendly, so I want to say, one of those kids that grew up watching Sailor Moon, who is somebody that we actually interviewed up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, is Amanda C. Miller, who voices Sailor Jupiter and the new dub. And I just think it's awesome that we have the opportunity to interview both Sailor Jupiters. I just think that's a really cool thing. And I know when I had first saw her, she was at NecoCon here in Virginia, and she was talking about growing up as a kid and seeing Sailor Jupiter, and that becoming her favorite Sailor Guardian. And when she got into voice acting, and when they were doing the new Sailor Moon series and she auditioned for the role and she got it, she was just hyped, because that's something that she grew up watching, that she never would imagine that she would be voicing her favorite character. So I wanted to ask you, have you had the chance to meet Amanda?
I have met Amanda a number of times. I mean, we've been at some Comic-Cons together, and she's been at a couple of our panels. I think she is terrific. She is one of the most naturally funny human beings I think I've met in ages. I mean, she's got this like really dry kind of wit, and it goes right by you at first, and then you start to roar with laughter, and you go, "Oh, did you just say that? Oh, you did. Okay." So I think she's terrific, and she wrote this really nice piece about how that character, had an impact on her when she was younger, and she talked about my involvement with the character in a really positive light. So really, really nicely. So of course, I mean, I knew as soon as I met her, I would just love her, and I did. I mean, as soon as I met her, I just went, oh, I thought it was just great. It was so fabulous to so like kind of like passing the baton. But in it, it's not as if that I was 95 years old and going out to pasture. I don't mean that. I mean it I mean it in a really positive way. And I I like the fact that with time, the character can, be maybe sort of played down a little bit more. Maybe she's just a little more grounded. Still, really incredible, anger management issues and all that kind of stuff. But maybe just a little bit more grounded with it, a little hipper than the way I did her. Listen to me. That sounds really rude. The way I interpreted her, but they're still in the same ballpark, and it's still got that same kind of that feist. So the thing about that I didn't realize at the time, and I realize it now, I think, how could that have not occurred to you? The typical girl characters at that point in time, they were all girly girls, just girly girls, just one after the other, all, sweet and saccharine, or they were just total horrible brats. Like, they were completely caricatures, right? There was no middle ground of somebody, of seeing a girl who had her own opinions, who had her own ideas, her own sense of self, sometimes a bit shaky, but a lot of times not. It was I didn't realize what a gift it was. I just didn't realize. All I did was think of the way that I approach things and life, and I am very much like that character. Positive, let's move forward, I've got your back. No, I'm not going to be a shrinking violet, because I don't believe what's going on here. I don't think it's right. That's kind of part of me. So when I would go to Comic-Cons, and people, so many women and men would say, this is the first time I ever saw my own self represented in a series or on a television screen. It was the first time I could actually relate. And I thought, how lucky am I? Oh my God, how lucky is that? It just, it brings tears to my eyes to think that I could have been part of something that actually had a positive effect on someone's outlook and on someone's life, and that they maybe felt a sense of hope and a sense of possibility, a sense of possibility. Look, and somebody brought up something that is so important, and it was so funny. A lot of the women who were Sailor Jupiter, Guardian Jupiter, I'm just going to say it the way we always said it, Jupiter fans, were tall individuals. And they said, you have no idea how weird it is when you're 11 years old and you're 2 feet taller than everybody in the class. And then you watch Sailor Moon, and there's Lita, and she towers over everybody too, but she's cool with it. It's okay. And I thought, isn't that something? Just even the visual of seeing a character who is representative of a large portion of the population. There are a lot of tall people in the world. There are a lot of short people. You see, it's so neat. You think of all those main core characters, they all represent different facets of peopledom. Yep. And well, in a very kind of a tight perspective there. I mean, a tight little ball of those kind of peopledoms. But certainly physically, you're tall, you're thin, you're small, you're whatever. The only thing is that their faces are pretty interchangeable. I mean, let's be frank. Come on. So, but anyway, so I thought that was something that made me very pleased in the end of all.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that a lot of anime, cartoons, TV shows even, they give representation to people and help them figure out who they want to be later too. And let them know too that it's okay to be the way you are. In a lot of ways. So
I just wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying, Miss Susan, about when you meet fans at conventions and whatnot, and you just never know like how important your role was on a cartoon or anime, how it helped inspire somebody. Because I had did a Q&A panel with Diane Pershing, and she voiced Poison Ivy on Batman the Animated Series, and she was telling us at the panel that she had went to a con because she didn't know how big Batman the animated series was, because you don't know until like you go to the cons. Even Robert had said that when he had went to his first con, he was just like, he didn't know like that there were fans of Prince Diamond and that wanted to ask him questions and stuff like that. But you know, Miss Pershing, she was saying that she went to the con and somebody was telling her that Poison Ivy was a symbol for feminism back in the day, because it's like this girl, she was going through something at home. She was in an abusive relationship and she was watching Batman the animated series, and she saw how Poison Ivy was on the series. She heard the voice, and she was just like, if Poison Ivy is somebody that can stand up to men and not take anything from them, and I can be somebody that can stand up to my abusive boyfriend and not take anything from him. And then she got out of there, and it was all because of Poison Ivy and Miss Diane Person. So it's just like, you just never know, you know, who's
what
watching,
means to
and how that character inspires you. And you look, Poison Ivy was a villain, but it was because of her voice. It was something that resonated with this fan that made them say like, yo, I got to get up out of here or I'm gonna die. So you just never know, man. And that's why
what a great story.
I feel like voice actors, they are so important to some people, because you just never know, like somebody might need to either watch that movie or TV show or watch that anime or cartoon, and like it has that message that I need to hear, so that way I can get my life together, you know. So you guys inspire us.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, you hear stories like that and you think because sometimes you go home and you think, oh, what did I do? I just, because I've done some really kooky, there were some kooky ones along the way. I did one where I barked for 41 episodes. So that was funny. So I go home and I say, what did I do all day? Well, I barked. Oh, okay. So it's not like, it's not like I'm sitting there working on a cure for cancer. I'm doing, sometimes I think really, I would think at the time, this is silly, but then I would say, no, it's not silly. This is what you do. And so then you hear stories like the story that you just recounted, and it's that's what you just never get to realize. And that's what's so cool about having Comic-Cons and even podcasts like this, and hearing your stories and hearing the incredible respect that you have when you speak to me. It really does my heart good, because I think, maybe it was a good career. It was a good choice, and maybe I did some good stuff. So it's really nice now that you can have a little bit of a moment to understand and appreciate, what's been going on. So
for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. So Miss Susan, we are here at the end of the interview, and I just feel like it can go on even longer. But we appreciate having you up here. And D, he always has his final question that he loves to ask our guests. So D, I'm passing the ball to you, my friend, and go ahead and take it away.
Said I got you. All right, Miss Susan. Question number 1: favorite 80s or 90s movie, or both, if you have one of each.
Favorite 80s.
Yeah, sure. Favorite 80s or 90s movie.
Just like any old movie?
Yeah, your favorite.
Yeah, your favorite.
Oh, like I can remember my favorite movies in favorite years. Well, you know what? It's so funny that you asked that, because just today I was looking at a clip for you're gonna just laugh at this, but for a film called An Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere and Deborah Winger. Which I haven't seen. It came out in 1982. So that fits the question. And I hadn't seen it in a million years. I was just looking at the clip so that I could reference the song from it, which is called Up Where We Belong. Love lifts us up where we belong. And I said,
familiar.
Wow. Well, you guys you are amazing.
Captain Silverhair, as I call Richard Gere. Captain Silverhair. Feel like he had silver hair for a long time.
Yeah, which calls like that Steve Martin. was like
Yep.
Yeah.
Captive, but Richard Gere, hello. Oof. in this film, like I was sitting there, I had to take my fan out and keep fanning myself because I said, I had forgotten how gorgeous he was, and I had forgotten that film was really good. Oh my God,
he has some classics for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, so isn't that funny? So like Deborah Winger comes up. I don't know why. I don't know if this was in 1982 or in the 80s, but one of my favorite films, I used to watch it a lot when I needed to cry, is a film called Terms of Endearment with Shirley Maclaine. And there's a scene towards the end where Shirley Maclaine goes into her daughter's very ill and dying in the hospital. And she goes up to the nursing station and she starts screaming at the nurses because they have let her daughter sit there with, I forget what the exact, they've ignored her for whatever reason. And she starts screaming, "That is my baby." And as soon as you see that scene, when I see that scene, I just dissolve into incredible crying jags. And for some women, some people, but for women, for me, I'll just say for me, a good cry is a good thing. So sometimes I say, you haven't cried in a while. Let's watch Terms of Endearment. So I'd watch Terms of Endearment. I would cry like a little baby for an hour or so afterwards, and then I would feel so much better. Isn't that weird? Am I weird? Yeah.
No. I've never seen that movie, and sometimes like I'll try to force myself to cry and like nothing comes out. So maybe I might need to watch that movie so that way I can just let those. Yeah, because it's hard. Like sometimes it's like you might be sad about something and you need to cry, and I don't know. Like sometimes it's just hard. So I'll add that movie to my list. But go ahead and continue.
Well, Benjamin, if you're an athlete. So do you like baseball?
I do like baseball. I played it when I was younger, but I kind of fell out of love with it when I got older.
Okay, but you're an athlete. You want a movie that will make you cry? Watch Field of Dreams. That's all I can say. I don't know a man on the planet who would not sit there and you're crying. They're good tears. You're crying and you go. Like guys go, I can't believe I'm crying. But
okay, I'm looking at the Kevin Costner, Ray Liotta, James Earl Jones. Okay,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
I mean,
in fact, I might watch it myself again because I thought I remember saying, I don't want to see a movie about baseball. I remember the guy I was going out with. I don't want to see, and we go and see this movie, and we're both crying, but they're good tears, as It's like you go, it's so good to be American. It's that kind of crying.
I'll definitely add it to the list.
Okay.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Question number 2, Miss Susan.
Yeah.
Growing up, was there anything that spooked you, scared you, and stayed with you? Whether it was a creepy lullaby, a creepy doll, movie, spider, weird incident with old people. I mean, what you got? Grandma, is that you?
Well,
do you have a story like that, or was there anything that spooked you that you think about to this day?
Not really. I used to have a little bit of an issue. I used to be in the choir at school, and we used to, at Christmas time, we would go to pardon me, we used to call them old folks' homes. I don't know, that's probably not politically correct, but anyway,
senior living home, retirement
senior residences.
Okay.
And we would sing for the residents, and I was very, very uncomfortable. It was funny. I would sing and do all that, but I was uncomfortable with people who looked like witches. But when you're like 10 years old, it's very easy for anybody to look like a witch. Yeah, if they're over 40, they can look like. so some of these people were, like 140, and so I just thought, but no, it's funny. Things, nothing really yucky stayed with me. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, it happens. We've had a couple guests that, don't really, I guess it doesn't stay with them, it's short-term memory stuff.
Yeah.
It may happen, and, as life goes on, you forget about a lot of stuff,
Well, sometimes that's a good thing. Just move on.
That's right. Your ability to let things go.
Yeah, let it go.
That being said, Banks.
Yeah, it's kind of like you get older and you look back at it and you laugh, because I know when I was in the 3rd grade and I had watched this movie called Pet Sematary 2, and I was over at my friend's house, and there was a scene in the movie that it was just so scary I had to leave his house. Like the whole movie was scary, but I want to say I probably only made it like 20 minutes in, and I was just like, yeah, I have to go. And so I end up leaving the house, and like I said, this was the 3rd grade, so I had nightmares about this movie all the way until I was in the 5th grade. And yeah, it's crazy. And if Trav was here, because we share a Pet Sematary story, his mom and dad, on their first date, his dad took his mom to go see Pet Sematary, and his dad was so afraid he left the theater, and his mom, she gave him another chance. Like he left. I mean, he was still at the theater. He was just in the lobby, but he was so afraid. And I was just like, yeah, your mom gave him another chance after that. And his mom, when I asked her about it, she was just like, yeah, he was good looking. So I was like, hey, he got lucky. Yeah, because Taylor, Trav would have never been here. You know what I'm saying? If that scenario went a different way. But yeah, Miss Susan, thank you so much for joining us up here on the new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. You were an amazing guest. And I just want to ask you, are there any social media accounts that you would like to share for your fans to follow you at?
Not at the moment. Just I'm going to be, as I said, I've got my vocal historical demo of whatever recollections of my life.
Highlight reel.
My highlight reel.
The highlight reel.
Retrospective. That's what I was calling it. And I'm also going to be, my new website is going to be up and running hopefully by September. And that's just SusanRoman.com. Can you believe it? I actually got my own domain name, which is pretty amazing. So so that is going to be on SusanRoman.com when it gets up and running. So stay tuned.
There you have it. That's right.
There you have it. Hey,
all right.
Let them know where they can find you at.
And you can find me as always at rebellious_D23 at Instagram.com. And Banks, if they need a hero, where can they find one?
Hey, you can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at KingBenji_Banks on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Benjamin Banks. I should be the first person to pop up. Yeah. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you again, Miss Susan, for joining us up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. It's been so wonderful. You guys are absolutely great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. And make sure that you check out some more of our interviews that we have here on the channel. And like I always say, keep that pinky up, stay positive. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Peace.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching another episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the channel. Podcast, we got that too. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit that bell for further episodes and notifications. Thanks a lot to our patrons. And if you don't mind, join the Patreon. We'll be having new specials coming up soon.